before we kick off the interview, I'm really excited to share some updates here at XYPN and for the podcast. So starting next week, Maddy Roche is going to be rejoining as the primary host of XYPN Radio. Maddy recorded over 100 episodes, and I took back over about 2 years ago. But I'm really excited to bring Maddy back to be able to allow her to sort of express her expertise and work with, talk to advisors through her work as an executive business coach. I'm not going anywhere. I'm still going to be here at XYPN. I have a growing family with a fourth baby on the way here soon, and we wanted to be sure that the podcast has continuity and that you're hearing from the expert advisors and the experience that they're having as they go through the process of launching and growing their firm. So I am so excited to welcome Maddy back to the podcast and so appreciative of her willingness to be here for the last 10 years. She joined our team almost 10 years ago now, and all of her expertise in working with advisors.
Hello and welcome to this episode of XYPN Radio. I'm your host, Alan Moore, and I'm excited to welcome XYPN member Patrick King, founder of Prana Wealth Management, a fee-only firm based in Atlanta, Georgia, on the show today. Patrick started his career as an engineer designing machinery, but eventually realized that it was a job being outsourced overseas. So he made a career shift into financial planning. He shared the story of when he first realized his own financial advisor wasn't actually giving him advice, but instead was just selling him a product. And it sent him on a journey to learn about personal finance. After getting his MBA in financial planning, he worked at a few different large RIAs. At his last firm, his employment agreement stated that he couldn't go work for another RIA for 2 years in the Atlanta area, but it didn't include starting his own firm. So he figured, why not? And gave it a shot for the next 2 years. Patrick shared how he started working with the niche of dual income, no kid households, but pivoted into working with pre-retirees as his YouTube channel took off with that particular market. He also shared how he has leveraged YouTube to build a really awesome business that supports his ideal life. This episode was a ton of fun, and I think you're going to really enjoy his story. Without further ado, here's my interview with Patrick. Hey, Patrick, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for being on.
Thank you so much, Alan.
Super excited. This has been my most rescheduled podcast interview in the history of XYPN Radio. We just had this gift for the one day I was sick twice this winter. It happened to be the day we were supposed to be recording. So thank you for your graciousness in rescheduling because, your story is one that I'm really excited to share. And I know listeners are going to be really engaged in. So thank you for taking the time to be on the show.
No problem at all. And of course, we threw in the holidays on top of the sickness to try to schedule this thing. So yeah, no worries there.
So just to kind of give listeners sort of a vantage point of your business, can you talk about just sort of where you're located, your niche, number of clients, maybe number of staff, just sort of orient us to where the firm is today?
Yeah, great question. So right now I'm primarily AUM, and I've got about 18 million in AUM as of today with 23 households that I work with, most of those being AUM. And yeah, that's basically it. I guess the niche would be at the moment pre-retirees, in that 50 to 65 age range who have the majority of their retirement investments in tax-deferred accounts. So I feel like those are the people that I can help the most and I've got the most experience with. We might want to talk about the niche thing a little bit in this episode. I might be a cautionary tale.
Okay. I always love a good niche didn't go well story because we always hype it up and we believe in it, but also it's not a perfect science. Sometimes it takes a little bit. So definitely want to dig into that.
Absolutely.
So talk to me a little bit about sort of your career path and what led you to become a firm owner. Have you always been a financial advisor or were you in a different industry before this one?
Actually, yes. My undergrad degree is in mechanical engineering, and I did that for a little while out of college and really loved it, especially the creative aspects of, machine design. Basically designed, lawnmowers, construction equipment, light fixtures. And yeah, all of those jobs at that time, I guess this was the late 90s and early aughts, were getting outsourced to China and India. And I actually have a Chinese visa in my first passport book that I was supposed to go train all of our replacements. So I figured the writing was on the wall. And at that point, I'd worked with a financial advisor who put me in some of my old 401k plans that I had to roll over constantly, of course, because I was going from job to job, into some C shares. And I was so angry because this was a person that was presented to me as someone I could trust. And of course, it didn't work out so well. And, in the course of acknowledging, all right, so maybe this engineering thing isn't going to work out for me, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. Ended up going back to Georgia State and the old master's program with Conrad Cicatello back years and years ago. And yeah, so I figured if this guy could make a living doing this, imagine what someone could do if they cared about their clients. And also, he had climate conditioning at his office. So it seemed like a no-brainer.
Seems like a win. I'm actually curious, how did you even discover that you were in C shares and what that meant? Because I feel like even today, that's hard information to sort of even find. So I'm curious about just sort of how you uncovered that.
Yeah, well, I did, a little internet search about what these funds exactly were that he put me in. And the more I dug into it, the more I realized, oh, wait, they have like a load on it. And so I was, so angry. And of course, it was a back end load being a C share. So I was stuck in these funds unless I wanted to A, rip the Band-Aid off, or B, let the clock run out. So I was so mad. I felt betrayed. And yeah, so little bit of internet research. Remember, I am a recovering engineer, so
I have to do the research.
Yes.
So you go get your MBA at Georgia State. Did you then sort of start working in an RIA?
I did. I was lucky enough to get an internship through a firm called Financial Discovery Group. It was a gentleman named Kyle Flint who has long since retired. Amazing financial planner, and he and some of his contemporaries at that time, they were some of the first NAPFA advisors in Atlanta. And as part of this internship, he took me to my first NAPFA meeting where the discussion was the assumptions that go into a financial plan. And to hear some of these great financial planners arguing about inflation and assumptions and return assumptions, it was like I had stepped into the Council of Nicaea. It was like people just heated discussions about what's the right inflation assumption for a financial plan. And I kind of looked around the room and I said, yeah, these are my people, so it was no looking back from there.
I love that. My first conference was a NAPFA conference, got a scholarship to attend up in Chicago. And I felt that same way where you go in and you're just like, whoa, like this is a group of people that's very different from what I thought financial advisors were and come to find out, are. It's very much a subset of the industry, but it really was and continues to be just this very open, give back, shirt off your back type attitude, because
for sure.
The advisors there really want to see other advisors like us sort of pick up the mantle and continue the fee only fiduciary model. So always a big advocate for getting involved in NAPFA and sort of finding your tribe, if you will.
For sure.
So you find your tribe, you said an internship at this firm. Sort of what was next for you?
So next step after that, I joined up with one of the larger RIAs here in Atlanta and worked for a few years there. And after that, moved on to another firm, larger firm that was started by a friend of mine through the Georgia State Financial Planning Network. And so worked there for 5.5 years. And after which I said, hold my beer, and started my own firm.
So what sort of drove the decision to move between large RIAs? Because generally, and this is a rash generalization, but I don't see folks working at multiple large RIAs and then going solo. Like that's not always the typical career path. Like it's kind of like people are made for small firms, so they're made for big firms. But you really stayed in that large firm environment for a while. So can you talk about sort of what kept you there and sort of, why you moved firms?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, a lot of it was experience, quite honestly. I was a career changer. So being in that large RIA environment, first of all, I was lucky to get one of those jobs. And then just to be there, to sit in on meetings, to see how all of these financial planners were working with clients and having discussions about retirement planning, investments, tax planning, estate planning, just to see how it was done, how the sausage was made, so to speak. And so it was a wonderful experience. It was a lot of hard work, some pressure in a lot of ways. And I really have to credit those folks that I've worked with in the past for teaching me so much.
Absolutely. So what then sort of led to the desire to start your own firm? You're probably making pretty good money in these larger RIAs. You've got a reputation. Maybe you're starting to get a client base. But like, what ultimately drove that entrepreneurial journey for you?
Yeah, I think the last stop was, and they're a good firm and they're good people, but it was just one of those succession plan things that just didn't work out. So part of the promise was that, hey, we've got clients that we want to offload, and you can create your own sub practice with some of these clients and build it over time. But it just didn't work out. The revenue share wasn't what it needed to be, and there really wasn't a whole lot of room for me to continue growing that, I guess, sub practice of that firm in a way that made sense financially, because I still wanted to actually meet with the clients, right?
Yep.
And it really is, again, they're good folks, but it was a little bit more sales oriented than I wanted to be, a little bit less like deep dive financial planning than I wanted to be. And yeah, so there was a 2-year non-compete, and back in those days, I guess in the state of Georgia, those non-competes had some teeth, and I could either move to like Chattanooga or Greenville, South Carolina, to avoid the radius. But there was a clause in there that had nothing to do with, I guess the non-compete had everything to do with not working for another firm, but nothing was in there that said I couldn't start my own firm.
Mm.
And so that's what happened. Hold my beer, so to speak. And I figured, hey, I'm going to run out the clock for 2 years and then see kind of what the environment's like. And here it is 7.5 years later.
I love that. I thought it was such a badge of honor when we first started XYPN. I would hear these stories about the non-competes and how they were working. And I remember the first time somebody sent me a non-compete where their employment agreement specifically listed XYPN as a going here would be considered competitive, not even as a staff member, but as an advisor. And I just got a good chuckle out of that because, it's like, all right, we've made it. And also this is totally unenforceable, but good luck. But it's
Right.
scary when when even if you believe that your non-compete is unenforceable, that's an expensive, tenuous process to get sued and to have to defend yourself in arbitration or court. So those employment agreements can be really scary, even if they have no actual teeth.
Yeah, for sure. Even if you know that you're going to win in that case, you still have to pony up for attorney's fees. And then there's the opportunity cost of time. And yeah,
absolutely. Always review those employment agreements before you sign them. We tend to only read them when we're going to leave our firm for the next opportunity. But,
or join XYPN, start your own firm and never sign one again.
Exactly. It's so true. Yeah, there's good reason. I don't want to harp on this too much, but there's good reasons for non-competes. We have non-competes with our team members here at XYPN, but it's usually about you can't just steal client data and go you can't set up a business here at XYPN and then spin it off. There's things like that have to be protected, or that we try to protect. And I get why the employment agreements exist, but read them before you sign them, because you can't negotiate them after you've signed.
True story.
So you launched your own firm in 2017. Did you have a vision for sort of who you wanted to work with at that time? Niche was still sort of a new concept even in 2017. Did you have sort of a client, I guess, had you had some success with a certain client base at any of those previous firms?
Yeah, I think your normal pre-retirees and people with executive comp issues were the clients that I feel like I had a lot of experience with, especially being here in the Atlanta metro area. We're the headquarters of a lot of large organizations. So had a lot of experience with stock options and restricted stock and deferred comp and those types of things. So I just assumed that would be the best route for me to take when I'm thinking about ideal clients to start my firm in 2017, at least.
Sure. So I guess what were those early days like? Were you able to bring any clients over, or, or did you have any success sort of early on getting clients in the door?
Well, I was able to bring a few clients over, but let's just say I started with zero effectively. And it was slow. That, it takes a little while to get registered and everything. So it wasn't until after XYPN Live 2017, I got home and I found out that my registration was good to go in the state of Georgia. They didn't tell me or anything. I just logged in and saw it.
Exactly.
So yeah, it was super, super slow, 2017 and 2018. I really, with some exceptions, have kind of followed the journey of your average XYPN member as far as the growth goes. Yeah.
So you talked about that niche is something that you've messed around with a little bit. So can you talk about just sort of your experience establishing a niche and the success and challenges that you had along the way with that?
Yeah. So this is the cautionary tale section of this interview. So yeah, I started with that one niche, whether it's like pre-retirees or executive comp. Okay, that's great. But as I started learning more and more about how to run and market a small RIA, the niche thing came up. I have heard of it a couple of times in the XYPN and Kids community and podcasts and everything. I figured, let me try this thing. And it was with some help that I landed on my niche being dual income, no kids people, because hey, that was kind of my situation. I don't have any kids. And so, yeah, let's try this thing out. Well, it turns out that didn't go so well for me. And I know there is a gentleman in the XYP Planning Network who that's his niche, and he's had some
child-free wealth.
Yeah, and had some ups and downs with that. And I talked to him at the last XYPN Live here in Atlanta, and I mean, good for him, because I couldn't do it, because there's a lot of negative association with like child-free stuff on the internet. And so here I'm like trying let's do this marketing thing, and there are literally people out there who hate children. They hate children and the people that have them. I'm like, look, I don't have kids, but like I have a nephew and I love that little sucker, and like I like kids. So, okay, this isn't gonna work out. And of course I had some friends here in town that were like, oh yeah, we love Patrick and we would love to work with him, but we have kids, so I know that he doesn't want to talk to us. I'm like,
and he hates kids, because everyone who doesn't have kids hates kids.
Right, exactly. So yeah, I redid my entire website that night. Did all the copy of like, we're gonna hit the undo button.
So it was that conversation with your friends that sort of sealed the deal for you.
Yeah. There was all this icky stuff that was going on, like the social media stuff that I was posting. I was like, I don't want anything to do with that. And then I heard that from my friends. They told my girlfriend that, and I was just like, yeah, this isn't going to work.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you slowly figure it out, and sometimes you just hit a wall. But listeners have probably, if you've listened to many episodes of this podcast, you've probably heard me talk about that. I started out, I got my CDFA to work with divorcing couples. Yep. And, I was like, I've been divorced. Like, I know how to navigate this. And after about the second divorcing client, I was like, I'm going to have to find something new, because this is not for me. And so it does happen. Like, it is okay to try on different niches and sort of find those ideal clients, because, it's so interesting. Your experience was more external than internal, that it wasn't so much the client work. It was more so the association or the assumptions about who you were as a person and how you maybe work with your clients and such, versus the actual quality of work you were doing.
Yes. I feel like, yeah, I tried it on for size. It didn't work out. I didn't get the warm and fuzzies doing that. I didn't feel like I was really serving anybody in a special way with that as my niche. And yeah, it did really, it kind of put me behind as far as growth of my firm too. So, I will say that, hey, you can experiment, but I think, and you can live. I'm an example of that. You can actually make it as a firm and pick a wrong niche along the way and have it not work out. But, I think it's Ali Abdaal that kind of says that there are two ways to figure out your niche. You can either be an architect and go in right from the beginning and say, yes, I am working with, doctors or whatever it is. Or you could be an archaeologist, where you can play around with things a little bit and find it along the way. So, I would think that if you don't start from the beginning absolutely with certainty that you're going to have a certain niche, then the archaeologist way might be the best thing. And fortunately, though, this led me to starting the YouTube channel. So
I love that quote, though. I don't think I've ever heard that before, about being an architect versus an archaeologist. because there is the assumption that everyone's sort of in that architect mode and that, we all know. And the reality is, I think there are a lot more archaeologists than architects when it comes to niche, at least in XYPN. But, I do find that folks, I agree with you that from the architect perspective, folks who have sort of a natural network, a natural niche, their spouse is a doctor or a dentist or a veterinarian. And so they're just sort of in that world, or they came from technology and therefore really know ISOs and RSUs and all that, like that, it's a little bit more natural versus like, hey, I'm just trying to build a successful business. I just want to live my own great life. Like, how do I get clients?
Right.
So talk to me about the sort of discovery of YouTube and the launch of your YouTube channel.
Yeah. So, after the Hindenburg of niches, I said, hey, look, let's just make some general retirement planning videos and put them on YouTube. I had, experimented with YouTube early on, but I didn't really commit to it. And, photography was a hobby. So I had the camera, I had all the lighting stuff. So I said, let's do this thing. So I started in earnest in September of 2020. I had rebranded my firm earlier that spring, and everything kind of launched in August. And in September of 2020, I started releasing weekly videos about retirement planning topics. And, these things take time. So my commitment was that for 1 year, I was going to make one video per week and not even worry about it until a year later, and then see where things were. And so that's what I did. So I made a video a week, and, my mom watched it. I think my sister watched it, and then, nobody watched these things. So, but I just kept making them. And about 6 months in, I looked to the analytics tab of my YouTube channel, and I just got curious. I'm like, who are watching, who's out there watching these videos? And it turns out that it was people between 50 and 65, just like the rest of YouTube, it's 80% male. And I looked at the videos that they were clicking on, and it was just basic retirement planning. And it just dawned on me that, hey, these are people who are just trying to figure out how to retire. And so after about 6 months, I changed those weekly videos to how do you retire? Like, what are the topics? Like, how do you apply for Medicare? When do you apply for Social Security? How much can you expect to take out of your portfolio without completely tanking the thing? So just your basic stuff that I think we take for granted. There are some really smart people who haven't thought about this, that haven't had any real formal education in this stuff. And I just wanted to speak to them. So whenever I created those videos, I just thought of, there's a guy that's 57, he's saved a lot, and he's like, oh, now what? Mm-hmm. So that's how it started. And then seriously, about a year later, it was September of 2021, I had one video that started taking off. And
you just had one that went viral?
One that went quasi-viral. That was my first quasi-viral video. And that's when, I passed 1,000 subscribers and, got a monetized YouTube channel and all that stuff. Was September of 21. And then
what was the topic of that first quasi video?
Yeah, I think it was 5 things to expect during retirement. And it was more of like a psychological impact of retirement. Like, what are you going to do with your time? How does this affect your relationship with your spouse? And that one kind of took off. So it was nice. It wasn't a hardcore planning one.
Yeah, I mean, those are topics that is very real, and some real fears that people have that, a lot of financial advisors don't ever address, or if they do, it's sort of like, oh, you'll figure it out. And it's like, yeah, my life has been pretty darn scheduled until the day I retire. And then all of a sudden there is no schedule. What am I going to do? And so it makes sense that those would be the types of topics that would do well on YouTube.
Oh, yeah. And there are plenty of people that told me how I was wrong.
Oh, of course. There's always someone on social media to disagree with you.
Oh, man. Yeah, for sure.
So is the YouTube channel something you continue to invest time and energy into?
I do. I kind of took a pause at the end of 2023, just because I think things are changing on YouTube, and I wanted to be intentional about my next step. It's something that I'm absolutely committed to for the unforeseeable future. We'll see how that goes, but yeah, I think doing consistent videos from 2020 through, let's say, the middle of 2023. That's a pretty long run in YouTube
Yeah,
years.
it is. I'm curious about sort of the community engagement side because, again, the comment section can be really interesting. It can be entertaining, or it can feel like you have discovered the bad part of town. So, did you spend a lot of time sort of interacting with listeners through the comments or some other community functions, or was it primarily just post the video and then sort of let it go as it goes?
Now, I interacted with people who posted in the comments. Typically, every day I would schedule some time, just to, a few minutes here and there to go reply and appreciate folks that actually had questions or said supportive things. I will say that as the channel has grown, that is not sustainable. That you just get too many comments, and the proportion of haters tends to grow as well. So there there's only so much of that you can take, even if you've got a thick skin. So I don't reply to comments as much as I did early on, just simply because of A, time, and then B, just making sure that I've got boundaries around what I'm taking in here.
I mean, especially if it's not your primary job. Like for you, the YouTube channel was a marketing tool for your primary job, being your firm. And I guess if it's easier to walk away from the haters when it's a marketing channel and not like literally your livelihood. But you did say that you got on the monetized section, and you had made a note to me in the pre-call about being surprised by the amount of revenue generated from those ads. Can you talk about sort of how that worked, and was that a meaningful driver of revenue for you in the early days?
Yeah, I mean, all right, I'll tell you the story. So I got monetized in September of 2021. So you hit 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 hours of watch time. At that point, I don't know what it is anymore. But so you sign up with Google AdSense, and I guess they once a month move some money into your checking account. But the first day I got monetized, it's based on the hours of watch time that are spent on your channel, and it's a certain split of the ad revenue that the ad buyers pay Google. Well, the first day it was $4.22. And I'm like, that's wonderful. So I call up my girlfriend, and I'm like, look, girl, I'm treating you to the finest one half of an appetizer in Atlanta. And so it's a little chuckle. I didn't know it was going to be real money. Day two, it was like $7 and some odd cents. No, excuse me. It was like $21 on day two. And so at that point, I called her. I'm like, oh, hey, girl, congratulations. You have worked your way up to an entree. Day three, it was $74. And I called her. I said, holy crap, if this thing continues, this is real money. So yeah, it's up and down. It all depends on how many people are watching your videos, how much watch time you get. It's less number of views than watch time. So it can be a significant amount of money.
Are you willing to share sort of where did that cap? Like, are we talking hundreds a month, thousands a month, tens of thousands?
Yeah, I think the biggest month I had was over 10,000.
Wow.
And so that's when the second viral video kicked in. So this was July of 2022. I made a video about when to time Social Security, and it was a case study. Of course, I left out a lot of assumptions, which made the comment section go nuts. But it was, okay, 62 versus 70. When to apply? What does this look like? I made that video, and then we went on vacation to Italy. And then while we were there, it was just every day. So the thing paid for the vacation, which was awesome.
That's amazing. Yeah. So the secret sauce is just make viral videos. Clearly.
Exactly.
You just need to do that every week. Why are you messing with this financial planning firm thing? Yeah, that's what's so funny. And I guess I think listeners know this, but like it's the strange phenomenon of having a viral video or post is like you usually have absolutely no idea that it's going to happen. I think there are a few like mega folks like the Mr. Beast of the world that know that a little bit more of the science behind how to get a video to go viral, but he doesn't hit all the time, and he puts like millions of dollars into each video. So you really just don't know.
Yeah, you don't know. That's why you show up every week. You don't know what someone's going to click on, and then you get better every week too. You do it in and out, day in, day out. You understand, how to script out the story, how to create a title and a thumbnail that people are interested in clicking on, and you just get better at it. But at the end of the day, you just don't know.
So you have sort of backed away from doing the videos as regularly. How did you make that decision? Because it seems like it's a pretty healthy income stream, variable, but it was money coming in the door. It's very real money. Financial planning firms doing well, but like, did you hit just sort of this income level where you were happy and figured, I don't need to be doing this for the money. I don't need to be doing this for the new clients, or was there something else that led that for you?
Yeah, so I feel like in 2023, I hit that point where I'm not going to say I kind of got the firm to where I'm out of growth mode. I think I just realized it.
Yeah.
after working hard to kind of, it's getting the flywheel turning. Between that, I did a lot of work on my processes in 2023, and YouTube is changing. I think there are a lot of people who are getting tired of this retention editing, where it's just sound effects and edits and cuts and all this stuff that is designed to keep you engaged in the video, but also there's a psychological impact to that. You just get tired of that after a while. So I just kind of wanted to press pause for a little bit and think about, hey, what am I doing here? I don't want to be on a merry-go-round where I'm just trying to create a video for YouTube's sake. I started thinking about my audience, and okay, I've tried to deliver knowledge to them. How can I do this in a more focused way that serves them better and, leads them down a path of learning about how to retire in an organized way, maybe, and do it in a way that doesn't burn me out, right? Because I don't know if you've seen this or not, but in 2024, there's like this sub niche of YouTube. It's just creators quitting. So
I have not seen that.
Yeah, it's a thing this year, which is really fascinating to me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know when Google acquired YouTube if they realized there was going to be these, this sort of creator phenomenon and this revenue stream and all that. It's not just funny cat videos anymore, but it is a major search engine, right? It's like, I think it's the number 2 search engine behind Google.
It is.
And so it is great for SEO. When I first started my firm back in 2012, I was doing, similar to you, but I would read the blog posts that I had written 3 times a week, 500 to 700 words. They were just, they weren't super long videos, unedited, just post them. And you can go Google them and find them. Very baby-faced Alan back when, and I even had like nice shirts and ties, which I don't own anymore. But it was really powerful for SEO and just sort of credibility building with prospective clients. And so I still recommend, like, you don't need to be super professional about it. You can just cut some videos, throw them on YouTube, throw them on your website. But it is a great way to get some visibility.
Absolutely. And they live out there. So even though I didn't create a lot of videos at the end of last year, the flywheel's still turning. So people are out there, they're still watching my videos. I'm still getting prospect calls from those videos. So people get to know you when they do that. And Alan, that's exactly how I started, is writing a blog post and putting it on a teleprompter and reading it back to myself. And half the time you're sitting there saying, who wrote this thing?
This is terrible. I know. Yeah, so it is interesting, to your point, the flywheel effect, and that's the beauty of content marketing. It's why I'm a big proponent of content marketing versus sort of one-time outbound type sales activities. Because you go to a networking event, you meet somebody, and then that's it. That event is no longer useful the next day. Whereas content, you post it and it kind of lives forever.
Yeah. And also too, I mean, that's maybe why YouTube works for me. I'm a little introverted, so the networking things, I just feel like I need to bathe in Purell when I come back from those, so
Same.
Just didn't work for me.
So how has the YouTube channel then, and sort of the success of the firm, has that altered sort of your typical client profile now? Or is it still, majority are the pre-retirees, folks starting to think about Social Security, those types of decisions?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's helped me focus in on the people that I feel like I can help best. And it's narrowed the focus, again. So I'm focusing on people that are between 50 and 65 that have most of their assets in tax deferred accounts, because I feel like I can help them unquestionably have a better retirement. So that's the point of the niche, is to have some guardrails around who's a good fit and who's not. And it's really kind of worked out. Those are the people that watch the videos. Those are the people that I feel like can help. And so yeah, there you go.
Talk to me a little bit about, like, sometimes we get accused of a niche being more of a marketing niche. It's just everyone can serve these clients. You don't know anything I don't know. And the reality is, though, like, you have this expertise and this knowledge and these stories now that other advisors may not have. So can you talk about sort of how you view, not better or worse, but just sort of view your services differently, and why clients are ultimately hiring you to be their advisor?
Well, you're right. I think, like, being a niche is like cooking. Like, everyone can cook. And if you don't know how, you can go on the internet and learn, right? But it doesn't mean that you're going to be the best cook in the world. So you might not be a chef. You might only be able to pour a bowl of cereal, right? So anyone can serve any niche. And of course, the more that you focus on that, the better you're going to get at it. Yeah. So I think when it comes to that, it's the people who are your niche, but also resonate with you. So this is one thing I'm actually leaning into a little bit more this year, is just trying to be authentic, have a sense of humor, which it's questionable whether I have one or not. Try to be a little bit more me and be a little bit less worried about showing up with a professional presentation, because I take this stuff seriously. I take my clients' retirement seriously. I don't really take myself that seriously. I mean, life's too short for that, right? So why not have a little fun? So at the end of the day, your clients are going to respond to you. The niche is great. It's a great place to start. It's a great place to focus your marketing, but it's a relationship at the end of the day.
Yeah, financial planning, it's so important to be authentic, and so valuable when we can just be our authentic self. And yet I do think that most of us as advisors at one point in our career, or for our entire career, put ourselves in this financial advisor box, and we look and we talk like we're supposed to. I'm reminded, I met this kid who was just about to graduate college. So I guess I'm aging myself now when I call 22-year-olds kids. But he was a total rocker. He had like this big mohawk, and he was tatted up and colored in his hair and all this. And he was going to become a financial planner. And he said, yeah, I'm going tomorrow, like getting my hair cut, and kind of, basically putting the uniform on. And I'm like, I didn't want to say that because he had his plans, but I'm like, oh my gosh, there are so many rockers out there who will never hire the traditional financial advisor out of the box. They
Seriously.
want you, like, they want a dude with a mohawk. And for most clients, or many clients, that may not be a fit for them. That's fine. But I bet there's 30, 40, 80 folks who really would love to have a financial planner with a mohawk. And
Seriously.
And it is hard. And I know he's 22, power dynamics, totally different when you're that young, but like, leaning into that is so important. So I guess, can you tell me a little bit about how that's sort of showing up for you in terms of sort of you being your authentic self?
Yeah, I think it's just interactions with my clients and being a little bit more authentic about what I'm doing. Travel's one. I love travel, and most of my clients love travel. And I don't know. I'm sure that your audience is probably finding that a lot of clients are wanting to travel when they retire. So talking a little bit more about that, and then just being more vulnerable about, my life, and, what it's like to be, a financial planner, and all of that stuff too. And it's really not anything special now that I hear myself talking about it. It's just maybe not trying to have as much of a facade around, I'm the financial planner. And again, yes, it's serious. Like, this is their life savings. But at the same time, people, I think, want to deal with a real person.
Yeah, one of our culture statements here at XYPN is fun but professional. And that was sort of my approach when I had an RIA, was we are professional. We deal with people's money. Like, we're not cussing out our clients on the phone or cracking bad jokes, but like, we can still have a lot of fun, and you don't have to wear a suit.
Yeah.
So I guess, where is your focus now? So you sort of dialed back on the YouTube side. You're getting your client base up to where, healthy, sustainable business. Like, where, I guess, over the next 12 to 24 months, where are you spending your time and energy with the business?
Yeah. So great question. So my, I guess, word for the year is boring. So I just want to be boring this year. I've worked so hard setting up processes for my business just to make sure that everything's consistent. That this year, I'm just going to refine them at most. I'm not buying any more software this year, Alan. If
take a break.
Income Labs was on my radar, but I pushed that to 2025 at the earliest. But I'm just going to execute. And that just means having better meetings. I don't do whatever you want to call it, but I have seasonal processes. So I'm going to execute on those and just try to be a very, very good financial planner and get back into consistent YouTube cadence with this new twist of authenticity, a little bit more straightforward and a little bit more focused content. And then travel too. We are planning to actually live in Portugal for a month in 2024.
Okay.
So, yeah, the goal is to be one of the world's oldest digital nomads for a month. We'll see how that works out.
What part of Portugal have you decided yet?
Yeah, I've got friends that are in Porto, and I'm meeting up with friends in Luso. And then from there, probably go down to the Algarve and stay for a few weeks there.
Awesome. We'll have to talk about that offline. Let's see, was it 2 years ago now? I guess, 2022. We do a sabbatical every 5 years for team members here at XYPN and Advice Base. So my wife was eligible for her 5 years. So we went to Portugal and did 4 weeks and just had the time of our lives. Portugal is a ton of fun. Porto is beautiful. So huge travel fan myself.
Awesome.
So it sounds like maybe I had misunderstood that earlier. So you are going to be leaning back into the YouTube channel a little bit, sort of back in. I guess what's driving that? Is it just wanting to have a bigger reach? Is it to try to get new clients? Is it for the revenue driver?
Yes, a little bit of it. I enjoy this stuff. I mean, I really, really love to get the camera out, to fire the lights up, to get behind a microphone. My girlfriend says there's something weird about putting a microphone in front of me that I turn into a little bit of a different person, right? And I think there's some truth to that. So I enjoy getting up there and presenting and recording myself and all of that. So there's just the enjoyment of it. The second part is to continue teaching people how to retire in a way that makes sense and isn't for YouTube. Like, okay, I've built this great channel. It's great. It's doing what it needs to do for my marketing, but okay, let's have this thing actually serve the viewers. And that way I know it's going to be sustainable for me to keep creating these videos long into the future. Also, it's a great excuse to just buy a camera crap and deduct it. So it is a business expense.
Business purpose.
What I got to say.
So do you have plans around hiring and growing the team? Do you want to stay solo and just outsource more? Sort of what's the plan from the sort of firm structure standpoint?
From a firm structure standpoint, at the moment, I want to stay solo. I do have back-end help from Total Office, and they do a great job for me. The next phase of growth for me will be hiring more people on the content side. And Alan, that's actually spun off at this point into its own business for convenience and compliance purposes. It's a siloed LLC on its own now. So, which was a whole lot more work than I thought it was going to be, but it is what it is. So I do want to continue doing that because I really love it. I want to have consistent and slow growth in my actual practice. I love my clients, and there's nothing to me that's better than helping someone pull the ripcord and retire. That is, I think, the highest honor that I feel like I could have as a financial planner is to be there with them the day they retire or to help them that day. So I love that. But I kind of want to play in both worlds a little bit. And so that means maybe a little bit slower growth in my practice and a little bit more conscious content on the YouTube side.
Okay. Well, this has been a ton of fun. It's so cool to hear, just your journey and switching niches and finding one and it not working and then finding another one in the YouTube channel. And really, it's amazing to see what the effort and consistency, it's not that you have to be some world famous production studio in order to be able to get the views, be able to help a lot of people and ultimately be able to drive the right clients to you. So as we're coming to the end of the show, I'll ask you the final question, and that is, if there's one piece of advice that you wish you could go back and give your younger self, what would that piece of advice be?
Alan, younger self isn't going to listen to me.
It's true.
He's not going to take any advice. No. I think I would not say anything to my younger self. And it's part of the journey, right? Like the reason I was able to start this YouTube channel is because I had an epic fail on a niche idea. But I learned something from it and came out of it. And that's part of the journey. Now, okay, it could have been a shorter journey, but yeah, I've built a great business. I started this out. I wanted to build a business where I had time freedom and I was able to meet my financial needs. And I've done that. So at the end of the day, it's hard to just let go of trying to push and accepting, hey, this is great. So yeah, I'm not sure I'd tell myself a thing different.
All right. I love it. Well, Patrick, thank you again for the time today and being on the show.
It was a pleasure, Alan. Thank you so much for having me.